Episode 3. The Fall of Ichau, The Oath of Vengeancei. Rain fell endlessly across the mountains of ancient Vietnam as the army of Ngô Quyền continued its march toward the north. Beneath storm-dark skies, thousands of soldiers crossed flooded roads beside roaring rivers while thunder echoed through the forest like distant war drums from heaven itself. The banners of Ichau whipped violently in the cold wind above endless rows of armored warriors carrying spears, bows, and swords blackened by rain. Villagers gathered silently along the muddy roadsides to watch the army pass. Mothers held lanterns beside frightened children while old men bowed respectfully as Ngô Quyền rode through the storm atop his dark warhorse. Everywhere the army traveled, whispers spread like fire across the land. Dương đình nghệ hát bin bet they. Ngô Quyền was marching north. Justice was coming. The nation itself seemed to awaken beneath those rumors. Somewhere far away in the darkness of Dai La, Keo Song Tin sat alone inside the former residence of Dung Din Nay, while fear slowly consumed his soul. The great hall remained scarred by the night of assassination. Burned lanterns still lay shattered across the wooden floors, while dark stains remained visible beneath the torchlight despite desperate attempts to clean them away. Outside the palace walls, thunder rolled above the city while rainwater flowed through empty streets. No songs echoed from the taverns anymore. No celebrations filled the marketplaces. The people of Dai La moved quietly through the shadows, speaking only in whispers whenever the name of Keo Song Tien was mentioned. Even his own soldiers no longer trusted him. Inside the hall, nervous advisors stood around a large wooden map illuminated by flickering candles. Several generals argued quietly, while armored guards watched every corner of the chamber with suspicious eyes. Ngô Quyền gathers support from every province, one advisor warned nervously. Entire villages join him willingly. Even former commanders of Dung Din Nay now pledged themselves to his cause. Keo Song Tien slammed his fist against the table. They are peasants and fools, he snapped. Fear will scatter them before they ever reach Dai La. Yet even as he spoke those words, uncertainty crept deeper into his heart. Ngô Quyền. He remembered the calm intelligence behind the younger warrior's eyes. He remembered how Dung Din Nay once praised him before the assembled generals. Now, those memories haunted him like ghosts. Far to the south, Ngô Quyền army camped beside a massive river beneath endless rain. Thousands of fires flickered through the darkness while soldiers rested beneath soaked banners and makeshift shelters. Horses stamped nervously beside supply carts while blacksmiths worked through the night repairing damaged weapons. Ngô Quyền walked alone through the camp after midnight, his cloak drenched by cold rain. Everywhere he passed, soldiers rose respectfully and bowed their heads. Many of them had once followed Dung Din Nay through years of war against the Nam Hán occupation. Many had lost fathers, brothers, and sons defending the dream of an independent nation. Now, they marched once more. But this war felt different. This time the enemy was not merely foreign. This time betrayal had poisoned Vietnam from within. Near the edge of the riverbank, Ngô Quyền stopped beside a group of young recruits sitting silently around a fire. Their faces revealed exhaustion, fear, and determination all at once. One of them could not have been older than 16. The boy looked up nervously as Ngô Quyền approached. "My lord," he whispered. Ngô Quyền sat beside the fire without speaking for several moments. Rain hissed softly against the flames while the dark river flowed endlessly nearby. "Where are you from?" Ngô Quyền finally asked. "A small village near Tan Hoa," the boy answered quietly. "And why did you join this army?" The young recruit hesitated. Then slowly, he lowered his eyes. "Nam Hán soldiers killed my father years ago," he said. "My mother said Dung Din Nay gave people hope again. When we heard you were marching north, I wanted to fight." Silence settled around the fire. Ngô Quyền stared into the flames while distant thunder echoed through the valley. Finally, he placed a hand upon the young soldier's shoulder. "Then fight not. For revenge," he said softly. "Fight so your children will never know this suffering again." The boy nodded silently while tears mixed with rain upon his face. At dawn, the army continued northward. Columns of infantry disappeared into mist-covered valleys while scouts moved through bamboo forests searching for enemy patrols. Rivers overflowed from constant rain, forcing soldiers to construct temporary bridges through dangerous currents. Yet despite exhaustion, morale only grew stronger with every passing day. Every village they entered welcomed them like liberators. Farmers brought rice and water. Women carried medicine for wounded soldiers. Blacksmiths offered weapons. Old veterans emerged from retirement to join the march. Throughout Vietnam, people no longer saw Ngô Quyền merely as a commander. They began seeing him as destiny. One evening, while heavy fog covered the mountains, Ngô Quyền gathered his closest generals inside a large command tent illuminated by oil lamps. Rain struck the canvas walls while maps of northern Vietnam covered the central table. "We approached Dai La within days," one commander reported. "Keo Tsong Ten strengthens the gates and gathers what soldiers remain loyal to him." Another general spat angrily onto the ground. "Cowards always hide behind walls." But Ngô Quyền remained silent. His eyes studied the river systems carefully. The generals watched him quietly. Finally, one older veteran spoke. "You have something else upon your mind." Ngô Quyền slowly raised his gaze. "Keo Tsong Ten is not our greatest threat anymore," he answered. The room fell silent. "The Nam Hán fleet will come." Several commanders exchanged uneasy glances. "Their armies outnumber ours," another general warned. But they still believe rivers belong only to nature. Lightning flashed outside the tent. A faint smile appeared upon his face. "They have never fought men who understand water better than fear itself." Far away to the north, the Emperor of Nam Hán stood upon a massive balcony overlooking endless rows of warships gathering beneath dragon banners. Morning fog drifted across the harbor while armored soldiers loaded supplies onto enormous vessels built for invasion. Generals surrounded the emperor, studying maps of Vietnam spread across polished tables. "The Vietnamese divide themselves again," one commander said confidently. "Once Ngô Quyền crushes him, we strike." Another general nodded. "Their lands remain weak after years of rebellion. This campaign will end quickly." The emperor remained silent while staring toward the southern sea. Then slowly he spoke. "Never underestimate desperate men defending their homeland." But despite his caution, ambition still burned within his eyes. The Nam Hán court believed victory was inevitable. They did not yet realize history itself was moving against them. Back in Vietnam, Ngô Quyền army reached the outskirts of several abandoned villages destroyed during earlier conflicts. Burned homes stood beside flooded rice fields while smoke-blackened temples crumbled beneath endless rain. The soldiers marched silently through those ruins. Many among them had grown up in places exactly like these. Ngô Quyền dismounted beside one destroyed village where an old woman sat alone outside the remains of a collapsed home. She looked at the army with tired eyes. "Who destroyed this place?" "Ngô Quyền Asket Sopti." "First the Nam Hán," she answered. "Then thieves. Then hungry soldiers." Her gaze slowly lifted toward him. "Please tell me this war will finally end." For several moments, Ngô Quyền could not answer, because he understood something terrible. War always promised peace, but peace rarely survived war. Still, he knelt before the old woman respectfully. "I cannot promise there will be no more suffering," he said quietly, "but I promise this land will no longer kneel forever." The old woman closed her eyes while tears rolled silently down her face. As the army continued northward, scouts soon returned with alarming news. Keo Tsong Tien had officially opened communications with Nam Hán. The invasion fleet was already moving south. Inside the command camp, tension immediately spread among the generals. "If the fleet reaches the rivers before we secure Dai La, then Vietnam may fall again," another finished. Grimly, Ngô Quyền stood silently beside the river outside the camp. Cold wind moved through the reeds while distant lightning illuminated the dark water. Then slowly, he knelt beside the riverbank. His fingers touched the rising tide. The generals watched him with confusion. Ngô Quyền stared toward the current for a very long time. Then something changed behind his eyes. An idea. A terrible, brilliant idea. "The rivers," he whispered. One commander stepped closer. "My lord, Ngô Quyền, those thou." "The rivers can kill them." The wind intensified around the camp. Torch flames bent violently beneath the storm. "The Nam Hán fleet believes our waters will guide them toward victory," Ngô Quyền continued. "Then we will turn those waters into their grave." The generals exchanged uncertain glances. They still did not fully understand, but they could already feel destiny shifting. Somewhere beyond the darkness, the greatest battle in Vietnamese history had already begun.